morning. It's just a little after 10 here in my kitchen, and I'm looking to whip up some lasagna for lunch today. This is by Explore Cuisine, so we're going to explore with it. Organic green lentil lasagna with 3 ingredients. I'm going to create a filling with sauteed Crimini mushrooms, garlic, and spinach with some extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to use Kirkland's marinara sauce, and I made this vegan ricotta on Sunday. It's Wednesday morning now, it should be good. Ricotta has chickpeas, almond flour, homemade, I'll talk about that in a moment, a lemon, and it called for garlic. And so I had this very garlicky parsley pesto I had made, and I just substituted that and it worked out fine. Now this just happens to be, I pulled this out of the oven, some dried out almond pulp from making almond milk. So I dry that out on a very low oven, under 118 degrees, just over 100 degrees really, for a few hours.
And then I store that in a ball jar until I have a whole jar and I blend it, and that's my almond flour. I always keep in mind that it's a little drier than traditional almond flour because it has had the milk squeezed out of it.
In any event, I will check back in with you when we're ready to assemble in this covered pan the lasagnas.
I've washed the mushrooms. They're ready to chop. I'm warming the pan. I have used a little more olive oil than I normally cook with, but I want this to be very tasty and scrumptious for my son. I've got this purple garlic, and I always cook with a little bowl for throwing away the extra bits so I don't have to make a mess. I always clean as I go. That's my motto.
So here we have the oil and the garlic and homegrown oregano and thyme. And if you don't have that, not to worry. There's some beautiful organic Italian seasonings that can be bought on Amazon, and they're just fine to substitute. But I do grow thyme, and here's the dried. This was full. I use it in everything. I love thyme, especially complimentary when seasoning mushrooms. And this is what's left of my oregano. It was full as well. I think I'm going to add, the power of fennel is amazing in nutrition and in digestion. So I like to sneak that in wherever I can. Just a few, just a very few, 4 or 5 is all you need. So I've chopped all those mushrooms, went by pretty quickly, and I wanted to show you, you see this condensation? Where did that condensation come from? All we're cooking is garlic and herbs and olive oil. Well, that came from the garlic. And I like to keep things cooking no higher than that. Pretty low, because I like to preserve the liquid. I like to use the vegetable liquid and cook everything in its own steam. And I do not especially want to use oil on a high heat. I try to use minimal oil in my cooking, so I'm not going to stir this right now. I wanted to develop a little flavoring in the pan on that low heat with the oil. The garlic's getting toasted up. I can smell it fragrantly. And I'm going to cover these, and then I'm going to stir them occasionally. It's hard to do things with one hand. There goes the Dulse, famous Dulse that I put in everything. Basically, when I think of salting my food, there comes the Dulse, and then here comes the pink Himalayan salt on top of that. Mushrooms have a lot of liquid in them, so these are going to release, and we're going to get a lot of liquid. Sometimes I cook them with the top off, but I'm going to keep the top on because when that liquid releases, then I'm going to top the pan with the spinach, and the spinach will steam in the liquid from the mushrooms. So hopefully I will use no water in this process of low heat cooking.
While my filling is cooking, I'm going to prepare this pan. The directions on the lasagna say to put a lot of sauce on the bottom of the pan and then on the top layer. And I imagine that's because this liquid, all the liquids combined, are what is going to make the pasta soft. Because the pasta will not be pre-cooked. It's going to cook in the layers. It's going to cook dry. So I can even put the first layer in. Am I going to fit 2? Barely fit 2. I might have to crisscross them and break off the corners.
At this point, I can smell that I need to stir this because the bottom is probably getting crispy enough. And we need to give something else a turn to be at the bottom and something else a turn to be at the top. So we flip them all around and recover them. And when these when these mushrooms are tender and juicy, then we'll add the spinach on top. I'm in a little bit of a hurry this morning. Can you tell? I've got a lot going on. I'm trying to finish this and get it in the oven. Normally I would be a bit more relaxed with a project like this, and I have broken off the corners. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but at least it's not overlapping in the middle. And if we had a lot of layers overlapping in the middle, I didn't think that would be wise. So I'm gonna break off a corner on each layer and put it in the inside. I've used a little of the parsley pesto here, but it's very strong, and I don't think I'll bring it in again on any of the other layers. I'd like to keep things simple. Vegan food can become complex very fast. I might not be able to use all this pesto before it goes bad, but that's the way it goes. It was an experiment. I thought I could use it to make garlic toasts, but it did not work as well as just straight up garlic oil warmed, which is warmed olive oil, garlic, and some paprika, salt, and putting that on the toast. So I tried putting this on the toast, and it was way too soggy, and it did not crisp up well, and it wasn't good. So I'm trying to use it up, but I think that's going to be it. I don't want to blow away people with flavors, and the parsley and garlic is very strong. Now here's what's important to see. Look at all that juice. That's just from the mushrooms being covered, cooking low. I did turn it up a little to speed things up, but I am going to put all the spinach on top of that, and we almost have our filling, so this can get in the oven. It's going to take 40 minutes to bake per the directions from Explore Foods. So we're going to wilt down the spinach with that mushroom juice, and we'll be ready to start layering up the lasagna. So it's just been a couple minutes here, and I've done a little bit of cleaning up, and the spinach is wilted just about, and now it's ready to be incorporated in with its little buddies. This is a powerhouse here of mushrooms and spinach. Boy, look, we could do a lot more spinach. Look how small it became. I might just go with it though. I think it's enough for now. I can get his greens in other ways because I want to get this put together and in the oven. If I had more time, I may add a whole nother handful of spinach. Very tempting. Should I do it? Won't take that long. I mean, how quickly was that? It cooks down in about 3 minutes. I can't resist. Cannot resist getting those greens in. So important. Okay, I think it's cooked down, and while I was waiting for this second batch of spinach to cook down, look what I did. I put the dried almond meal in a jar to throw in the freezer, and the next time I have a moment, I will blend it up with another jar that I have in there, and I'll have plenty of almond flour. So now we have what looks like a good amount of spinach and mushrooms. My boys love spinach. And we're ready to assemble. Okay, we've got a first very thick layer of veggies on here. And now I am going to add the second layer. Okay, well that could fit in there. I guess I'll put that one there, and this one could actually be here. All right, second layer. Little bit of sauce. Spread that around. And I'll put the cheese on. I'm about to cover this and put this in the oven. And I just want to address one thing, and that is, who am I making this for? This is for growing boys. I consider this alkalizing, nutrition-filled, transitional food for vegans. This is not food that you would want to eat if you were experiencing severe illness or body discomfort. Cooked tomatoes can have a reaction with people who are not in a balanced state. There was a time I would not have been able to eat this, but I now view cooked tomatoes as nutritious and delicious because I am in a more balanced, healthful state. So you have to really tune into your body and decide what you can eat and what stage that you're at on any given day in your body chemistry. So there was also a time I couldn't eat mushrooms or spinach because of the acidic factor. But this is actually very healthful for someone who is in a balanced state and looking for a satisfying. Hi, thanks for being with me today and watching as we assembled and had a little exploration of a new dish that I've never made before from Explore Cuisine, lasagna. I used all of the dried lasagna except 3 pieces, and it says it serves 4. So for me, that seemed like a huge amount of food. That casserole dish is completely full in the oven. It took just under 30 minutes to assemble. It's going to take, it says, 40 minutes to cook. I'm going to do other things now. I'm off to do other things, but I wanted to show you something important. This is where we assembled all of the lasagna. And this is where I will put it when it comes out of the oven to serve it on the stove. No sign of what we just created. And that is so important to me. I understand that many times things come up and we're rushing and we've got to move on, but cleaning as we go, completing a task is so important for the mind, for the soul, for the spirit, to begin and to end something completely and to move on. Thank you for watching. I can't wait to take this lasagna out of the oven. So I'm back after having a little me time. Yes, feeling fresh, and we've got our lasagna out of the oven. We know that lasagna needs to sit. It needs to set. It cannot be served right away. Oh, I'm so nervous. The house smells amazing. Okay, it's a little dry on top, but that looks amazing. Can just pour some sauce on there. Let's see what this actually, so the consistency is nice. It's firm. That will firm up even more as it cools, and I can put a little sauce on top and maybe even some vegan mozzarella cheese before he comes in for lunch. That's what I'm gonna do. And here's our Explore lasagna, stuffed with spinach and mushrooms. I've topped it with a little vegan cheese and extra sauce and broiled it for about a minute. Voila, ready to serve.
Hopefully, looks amazing.
Yeah.